If you're watching this on The Prepper Historian, make sure you hit subscribe right now, because today's topic is one you won't find in school textbooks or casual documentaries. This is one of those historical techniques that sits right on the edge of survival knowledge and suppressed wartime innovation. And the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. Because the Vikings created a heating hack so efficient, so deceptively simple, that militaries revived it centuries later and eventually banned its civilian use after the war. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was too good, too effective, too independent. And that's exactly why this matters to us as historians and preppers. Let's get straight into it. The method begins with understanding how the Vikings weaponized fermentation and insulation for heat. Most people think of the Vikings as warriors, raiders, and shipbuilders, but they were also masters of thermal management. Living in harsh northern climates required them to maintain warmth without constant firewood, especially on long journeys or in winter fishing camps. One of their most effective tricks came from combining a sealed container, organic material, and slow fermentation. The result was a steady, controllable heat source that burned neither fuel nor oxygen. They filled tightly woven bags or clay-lined wooden vessels with animal fats, crushed grain, wool scraps, and sometimes dried fish waste. As these materials began to break down, microbial activity generated heat. When placed in a secondary container, usually wrapped in layers of wool, fur, or packed moss, the Vikings created a portable, long-lasting heating core. It could stay warm for days, even in freezing temperatures. Sailors used it to prevent water barrels from freezing. Hunters used it to keep hands warm overnight. Women used it in winter weaving huts, where fire posed a risk to textiles. What made it revolutionary was that it required no flame, no smoke, and very little maintenance. You set it up, seal it, insulate it, and it quietly radiates low but reliable heat. Centuries later, wartime engineers rediscovered the same principle and refined it. During the Second World War, Allied and Axis engineers alike were studying passive heat sources, especially for downed pilots, remote outposts, and long-range patrol teams. Standard fuel wasn't always available, smoke could give away positions, and firelight was too risky. When researchers looked back at Norse survival accounts, they rediscovered the fermentation-based heating pack. Scientists increased the efficiency by using high-fat materials, coarse grains, and fibrous fillers sealed in wax cloth or metal tins. The result was a compact chemical heater that didn't rely on chemicals at all. It was biological heat generation, scaled up. Soldiers used these packs for warming rations, preventing frostbite, and heating enclosed shelters without alerting enemy forces. Resistance groups in the north used them for safe house warming in abandoned barns or cellars that couldn't show smoke. After the war, governments quietly restricted civilian production of certain designs. The official reasoning was safety and sanitary concerns, but honestly, the real reason is a bit clearer. These packs allowed remote communities to heat areas without purchasing fuel, wood, gas, or electricity. In other words, they threatened post-war fuel monopolies. So the technology wasn't illegal, but large-scale civilian manufacturing was heavily regulated, pricing it out of common use. The technique faded, except among researchers and certain survival schools. You can apply the same Viking principles today with controlled, safe methods. This is where the historical value meets real-world prepper utility. The Viking method wasn't magic. It was disciplined, controlled fermentation. Today, you can reproduce a safer and cleaner version using modern materials. Start with a metal or heat-resistant container like a camping tin or food-grade steel bottle. Add a mix of high-calorie organic matter oats, wheat bran, fatty scraps or vegetable waste like carrot peels. Add just enough moisture to activate microbes without turning it into sludge. Seal it tightly. Then wrap the container in an insulating layer. Wool is ideal because it traps air and resists moisture. After several hours, you'll feel the temperature rise. It won't boil water or warm a cabin by itself, but it can keep your hands warm in freezing wind, help prevent a water filter from freezing, or warm a sleeping space when placed inside a secondary insulated pouch. You're recreating a heat source that Vikings relied on to stay alive in conditions that would shut most people down. For a practical example, try building a Winterfield kit, a stainless steel bottle wrapped in wool, filled with a fermentation mix initiated hours before you leave. On a cold night, it will take the edge off the chill in a small tent. Another example is keeping electronic devices warm. Batteries hate the cold. A low heat pack like this prolongs their life dramatically. This is exactly why wartime radio operators use similar systems in the field. The reason this old method still matters is that it gives independence when systems fail. If you're a historian, you're not just studying the past, you're studying human problem-solving. And the Vikings solved cold weather in a way that didn't rely on cutting forests or feeding a fuel supply chain. The wartime engineers who revived the method weren't interested in tradition. They were interested in effectiveness. And effectiveness is what preppers and historians both appreciate. If modern fuel distribution ever faltered, or if you found yourself off-grid in deep winter, knowing how to generate low, sustained heat without fire could be the difference between frostbite and functioning hands. That's why this knowledge is worth preserving, not as nostalgia, but as applied history. So what you've just learned is a piece of technology too effective for governments to leave unregulated. And now it's back in your hands, exactly where it belongs. If you found this valuable and want more deep dives into forbidden, forgotten or overlooked survival history, make sure you subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this video with someone who'll actually appreciate it.